Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the newly released ThreeZero Transformers Bumblebee DLX vintage inspired Blitzwing. A repaint that when was announced I was incredibly excited to actually pick this figure up, as in my opinion this is the colorization that we should have actually got in the movie. Of course this vintage inspired representation of Blitzwing does take a heavy inspiration in how he did appear in the original G1 series and is essentially the Bumblebee movie Blitzwing decked out in a really awesome purple and almost beige-like colour scheme. Taking a look here at the packaging, you can see we have an awesome image here of Blitzwing, of course Blitzwing vintage inspired. As we take a look here towards the back of the box, we merely just have the Decepticon insignia. So without further ado, let's crack this open and see what awaits us inside. Starting off firstly here by taking a look at all of Blitzwing's included accessories. Something which is worth mentioning is that I have not assembled the included display base, just as it takes up too much room in my collection and they are incredibly difficult to actually dismantle. However, please be aware that this figure here does indeed include one. However, taking a look here at Blitzwing's actual weaponry, you can see he comes with this huge blaster. This is obviously something that did come with the original version, however this time done in this more purple and beige colour scheme. I think that it looks absolutely terrific, and as mentioned in all of my ThreeZero/3A reviews, I truly do believe that they are producing some of the best premium products that are currently available on the market. This paintwork here is absolutely exceptional and you would be easily forgiven for thinking that this is indeed made out of a die-cast material. It is that well done. You can see some incredible sculpt work going along here, such as these red sections. He does indeed have these missiles which are removable, so if you so desire you can remove both of them or just one, or of course you can have them both attached. As we take a look here to the main barrel of the blaster, I love the sculpt work as well as overall paintwork for this. And then taking a look here towards the top, you can see the mechanical detail does indeed continue, and when you do actually attach it onto Blitzwing's arm, all of these tubes and pistons certainly do look incredibly seamless fitting alongside the forearm. Taking a look here at the Electron spike, this is something that we do see Blitzwing use in the Bumblebee movie, of course, in order to extract Bumblebee's voice box, and very similarly to the blaster, I think that the sculpt work as well as the paintwork on this looks exceptional. And as mentioned in my DLX Soundwave review, I also believe that now we have the opportunity to handle these figures, which are literally 100% screen accurate to how they appeared on the movie. It gives us a better appreciation of the design, as before I handled this particular ThreeZero Electron spike, I did not realise that Blitzwing's hand does indeed transform and wrap around this spike. That was something that was unfortunately not so evident in the movie, and I love the attention to detail. We of course do have Blitzwing's thumb here on the back, and the overall sculpt work too is impeccable. We of course do get a plethora of different hands, slightly more menacing, almost looking as if he's about to strike an Autobot pair. We also do get a pair of fisted hands as well as some relaxed palms, and all of these are on ball joints, so are very easy to swap out, and of course that is something that I will go into more detail later on in the review. Turning our attention here to of course the main event himself, here we have the vintage inspired Blitzwing. As mentioned earlier on in the review, I truly do believe that this is the colorization that we should have actually gotten in the movie. It never bothered me all that much that Blitzwing was for the most part a very similar character model to that of Starscream, but something that I could not get past was his colorization. I have no idea from a design perspective as to why the design team who worked on the Bumblebee movie did indeed decide to color him very similarly to Starscream. It would have cost nothing to give him a much more G1 inspired color scheme, much like we have here with this ThreeZero representation. I also do believe that this is a great repaint. Of course, in the Bumblebee movie there were a plethora of different Seekers, all of them of which had different color schemes, and I'm really hoping that we can maybe see a Starscream actually made by ThreeZero by retooling the Blitzwing mold, or perhaps various other repaints down the line. I am so glad that I did indeed pick this figure up, and with the all new color scheme it makes me hope that ThreeZero do indeed approach some other concept characters. With all that out of the way, let's bring him in for a closer look. Starting off by taking a look here at Blitzwing's head sculpt, if there is any area on this figure which does indeed benefit from the all new colour scheme, it has got to be this head sculpt. Upon opening this figure out of the packaging, that was something that struck me straight away. The detail as well as the new paint apps certainly do bring this character to life, and I absolutely love the attention to detail that ThreeZero did pack into this figure. As you can see, we now have a much more G1 accurate colour scheme as far as the head is concerned, with the main helmet being completely decked out in this really nice yellow. I do like that whilst they did take inspiration from of course the G1 cartoon series, they did add a little bit more realism to the actual paintwork in order to make it fit in the real world aesthetic. You can see we've got some exceptional detail going along there for the main faceplate, as well as these really awesome almost gas mask-esque designs here on either sides of Blitzwing's face. Something which I must point out is that I maybe would have liked to have seen an entirely new head sculpt, of course to match his original G1 counterpart. However, I still think that what we have here is really well done. You can see some exceptional detail there, such as the jet intake. We've got some different details such as the danger insignia here, and I absolutely absolutely love the entire colour scheme. You can see that the wings here have been picked out in that super nice purple and also have got this darker wash over the top in order to give you this weathered and battle damaged appearance. We of course have the Generation 1 Decepticon insignias here on either sides of the wings, and taking a look here from a bird's eye perspective, you can see some phenomenal gunmetal detail as well as some of the windscreen of the actual cockpit of the vehicle mode. We also do have some jet turbines here on the back. Of course we saw these when Blitzwing was charging towards Bumblebee in the movie, and swinging around here to take a look at the back, you can see once again some incredible details such as the purple paintwork as well as some minute decals such as this one here. We of course do have the thrusters here on the back. I may have liked to have seen these here light up, however that is something that the upcoming premium scale Blitzwing will indeed perfect. And as we take a look here towards the back of the legs, you can also see here that the sculpt work as well as the overall paintwork in my opinion looks absolutely incredible. You can also see some further decals here, and really ThreeZero's work continues to blow me away with every single release. I have had their Blitzwing now for roughly 18 months, and by getting this repaint it has just given me an entirely new appreciation of a fantastic looking sculpt. We also do have some really nice paintwork here for the actual shoulders, and I do like how the fins of the jet do strut out on the shoulders. You can see we've got that much darker wash of course to give it a little bit more of a realistic vibe. And then as we take a look here towards the forearms, you can see how all of this purple paintwork here has been given this almost burnt out effect, as if it has of course transformed from that of a jet. As we take a look here towards the interior of the forearm, you can see that the mechanical detail there is absolutely incredible and the paintwork is just sublime. And then turning here to the thighs of the figure, I do like this almost multi-layered look that the figure has got going on for it. It certainly does give you the illusion that this figure could indeed transform. And then as we turn our attention even further down to the leg, you can see some fantastic detail here for the knees, and then of course here for the shins and the side of the legs, which do indeed have the thrusters attached. We do have the USAF decal here on the sides, and then taking a look here at the feet, I love the attention to detail such as the landing gear here, which makes the toes of Blitzwing. Now something which is also incredible on this figure in my opinion is that none of the joints are indeed visible, whereas you would see on a Hasbro figure, hinge joints etc. You do not get any of that here with Blitzwing. Everything looks seamless, and for a character which looks more like a statue, he is indeed incredibly well articulated. Here for the head, we actually do get two ball joints, one situated at the top of the head and then another which actually pegs into the neck. And just to demonstrate this can look up that far, which for a character who can fly is a great degree. He can also look down, he can of course tilt side to side and look left to right. We also do get a full 360 rotation here at the arm. However, due to the nature of the shoulder, it does slightly restrict this. However, you can take this here, hinge this out of the way, and I love how this flap is very nicely concealed, although this can indeed hinge up, which is something that I was not expecting at all. This does allow for a greater range of motion moving out, and if you do actually utilize the main arm joint, you are indeed able to exceed that to get a much wider range of motion. We of course do get a butterfly joint with this figure, which can move all the way in, and if you do move this entire shoulder section, it does once again allow for a much greater range of motion. Full 360 rotation here at the bicep, as well as a double joint here at the elbow, which I just think is remarkable. Full 360 rotation here at the fist on ball joints. We do get an ab crunch here for this upper section of the torso, so just to demonstrate that this entire section here does indeed shift forwards, and then if you lift this section forwards and then these pieces forwards, that will allow you to actually take the main ab crunch joint and of course crunch that forward. So in my opinion, for a character which is very bulky and incredibly blocky, I think that this is an exceptional range of motion. We of course do get a full 360 rotation here at the waist. The legs can kick forwards all the way as well. We can kick them back all the way. They can of course do the splits. We can take this hip armor here and hinge this down in order to allow for a much greater range of motion, which once again I think is fantastic. Full 360 rotation here at the upper thigh, as well as a double joint here at the knee. These here are all made out of a die-cast material, so once again there is no worrying about the joints potentially breaking, and the same can also be said here for the elbows. And then as we take a look here down to the lower section of the figure, if you take this section here and slightly extend it, these can pivot forwards and backwards, as well as of course rock side to side, and these two can also rotate the full 360. Turning our attention here to the back of Blitzwing, the wings too are also articulated on hinge joints, so you can hinge those up and down, as well as hinge them out to the sides in order to allow for some clearance when moving the arms around. So overall, as far as articulation and detail is concerned, I think that this is one of the best DLX figures that I've had the privilege to handle. Taking a look at the actual weapon implementation here of Blitzwing, much like the articulation, it is very seamless to actually do so. Due to the entire endoskeleton being made out of a die-cast structure, I have no worries about actually removing any of the joints in order to install any of the extra accessories. In order to demonstrate, you just simply want to remove this forearm here by just giving it a tiny little wriggle here, and you can see that will expose a die-cast peg. We can then take our huge blaster. You can see the circular hole there that will simply just snap and slide in over the top. So just align that up appropriately, and once again wriggle this entire section on, and here you have Blitzwing's huge assault rifle looking really awesome. It was definitely a wicked looking weapon in the movie, and I think here, now inspired by his G1 appearance, looks incredible. As far as actually changing out some of the hands are concerned, you simply just want to pop them off, also on die-cast ball joints, and we will bring in his voice box spike remover, and that too does also peg on there really nice and securely with little to no hassle at all. And you can see that Blitzwing is definitely a very formidable foe, especially if Bumblebee is around. Now, something which is also worth mentioning here for Blitzwing, and was actually an issue on the original run of this particular figure, is that if you turn around here to the back, the rear plates do indeed hold in a lot more securely here on these ball joints. On the original version, they were very easy to pop off. However, it is good to notice that ThreeZero have indeed refined the sculpt slightly so that you can indeed articulate these around, move the legs around without having to consistently worry about these popping off. Of course, we can pop on any of the other hands by just simply popping off the electron blade, and as far as accessories are concerned, I think that Blitzwing here looks awesome. And here, for a ThreeZero DLX Blitzwing size comparison, we have here on the left the movie accurate colorization, and of course here on the right the new vintage inspired colorization. And as mentioned earlier on in the review, I do actually prefer Blitzwing having this more purple and beige color scheme over the color scheme that we actually got in the movie. It would have cost nothing for the actual design team who worked on the Bumblebee movie to give Blitzwing a color scheme which was not just a direct carryover of Starscream. As mentioned, I do not have an issue with the actual design itself, it's just the colorization I believe was completely off, and when actually looking at these side by side, you would easily be forgiven for actually believing that the movieverse version is Starscream and that this vintage inspired version is indeed the Blitzwing that appeared in the film. I personally love these two figures on the shelf and am so glad that I did indeed add this repainted version to my collection. But they are both fantastic figures, and also, as there were many seekers in the Bumblebee movie, I'm really hoping that we can maybe see an array of repaints and slight retools down the line to give us, of course, the actual Starscream that appeared in the B movie, as well as Thundercracker and of course Skywarp. And so, some final thoughts. Overall, I believe that this particular repaint here by ThreeZero is so far one of their best. Yes, even better than their recently released Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. The actual DLX Blitzwing mold itself is impeccable, and when I originally did get that figure in hand, I was blown away, and it is, and probably always will be, my definitive representation of that character from the Bumblebee movie. I really do love the way this looks. I think that the head sculpt looks impeccable. This time with a little more lighter shade as far as the paint apps are concerned, you can truly appreciate some of the exquisite detail that that entire head sculpt has got going on. I love the purple paint that is used, and the beige highlights I also believe are really well done. I do like the subtle pops of red, and those classic Decepticon insignias on the wings certainly do look incredible. If you are a fan of the Bumblebee movie, as well as of course the G1 designs, then I think that this particular vintage inspired Blitzwing is going to be a must-have for any collector, especially if you are a fan of ThreeZero and their recently released DLX products. My only hope now is that perhaps we can see some vintage inspired Optimus Prime and Bumblebee repaints, perhaps given a little more of a cel shaded look, and I will definitely be adding them to my cart and of course to my collection. I really hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below. Also be sure to let me know on what you actually think of this particular Blitzwing itself, and whether or not you will indeed be adding this to your collection. I thank you all for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.